So they always say with Star Trek that, it's to boldly go where no one's gone before. But what if they have? And the only reason I'm going to say this is because they do retread some ground that has already been touched on in the previous movies and the TV shows. You're either going to just roll with some of the stuff that they're doing and not care, or depending on how hardcore of a fan you are, or how hardcore of a film snob you are, you're probably not going to like some of the things they do in this movie. This time, the Enterprise crew is back, and they are faced with a foe that they're just not prepared for. This guy is basically a super terrorist. And, it's one of those where it kind of harkens back to The Dark Knight, where, Batman faces the Joker. It's kind of on that level, where it's somebody that they don't get. They don't know what this guy is about. They don't really know who he is. And he's honestly probably more than they can handle. And this guy is John Harrison, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, who is literally schooling everybody on the set. There's really only one weak link as far as the acting goes in this movie, and it kind of fixes itself a little later down the road. But for the most part, he's taking everybody to school in this movie. Benedict Cumberbatch is amazing. He's easily the highest selling point of this film. Forget the special effects, forget the script, forget the action sequences. Benedict Cumberbatch is why you go see this movie. That's why it's not that much different than going to see The Dark Knight. He steals the show much like how Heath Ledger did in The Dark Knight. These guys are tasked with going to find Benedict Cumberbatch. They have to go find this guy. They are hunting him down. This is a simple, good old-fashioned manhunt. I talked about how in the retro review I did that, Kirk and Spock had to learn to like each other. They had to learn how to grow on each other. In the previous film, in this movie, they've gotten past that point. They like each other now. That was one of the things I was worried about with this film. I was like, are they just going to retread the same ground that they did with the first film and just have them at odds like all the time? And they kind of retread that ground in the first movie, but they do it a little bit differently, and it's different enough that it feels fresh, because instead of having to relearn to like each other, they have to learn to trust each other. And that's actually something different enough, where it presents some new story elements and some things that we haven't seen, at least in this current iteration of Star Trek. I mean, it's really enough to keep you engaged in the growth of their relationship. I mean, it's enough that, you'll probably, when you watch this film, you'll probably go back and think, I feel like they've done this before. But it'll be just enough for you to be like, but I'm okay with it. Honestly, speaking of that character development, the entire crew gets a lot more screen time, with the exception of Anton Yelchin as Chekhov. He's not really in the film a whole lot. I mean, it's kind of weird, because everybody else is. Uhura gets a lot more screen time. Scotty gets a ton more screen time. And even Bones McCoy gets more screen time than what he got in the first movie. Not by a whole lot, but enough. And one of the things I also thought was pretty cool was that Sulu gets more screen time. The dialogue in this movie is pretty snappy and chock full of one-liners. And normally I hate one-liners. I'm not that guy. I am not a fan of one-liners in movies. It just does not do anything for me. And in this film, it actually works because, it's so snappy, it's so quick-witted that you almost don't really care. Even if it is stupid. And a lot of it's just nods towards original Star Trek dialogue. So it's pretty cool. I will say this, that when it comes to the Easter eggs in this movie, I know I talked about in the previous review for Star Trek 2009 that there's lots of Easter eggs in it. If you are a fan of Star Trek, you'll see this. This movie is nothing but Easter eggs. Matter of fact, I'd even go as far as to say there might be too many Easter eggs. you get overwhelmed. It's like the first and second act, I was like, oh, dude, look at that. Oh, hey, look at that. Oh, hey, look at that. And then by the time I got to the third act, I was like, okay, there's that. Yeah. Okay, so this is probably one of the darkest and intense Star Trek movies since Wrath of Khan. And I would even go as far as to say they throw a lot more at you than they do in Wrath of Khan. But with this film, I felt everything was moving so fast that you didn't really have time to absorb some of those more dark and emotional moments that happen in this movie. And this movie is a roller coaster ride. It has great highs and it has great lows. It's one of those films where they literally take you to the edge of your emotions for these characters because these people are in the ultimate danger. And it's one of those where I really kind of feel like, man, you guys might have peaked. It's also a thing that kind of comes to its detriment because, once again, the first and second act are great. It's a great film through and through in the first and second act. But once you get to the third act, that last 45 minutes, that's when everything slows down. All of that could have been forgivable, but I won't lie. The final battle, a little underwhelming. It's, without really giving it away, instead of it ending, the final battle just stops. And to me, that is, I don't know, to me that's an unforgivable sin. It kind of makes me take this movie down a peg from what I was originally going to give it. What I'm going to give Star Trek Into Darkness is, give me the Blu-ray. It is a movie I do want to see again. It is a movie that I did thoroughly enjoy, and it was so close to a fan-freaking-tastic. But like I said, it just, all these, it was the death of 1,000 cuts, you know. There's no one real serious particular thing that takes this movie down. It's a bunch of little things. I still think everybody should go out and see it. I mean, go see it in the theaters. But this is a movie you definitely want to add to your Blu-ray collection. For the most part, everything was pretty damn good in this film. The acting was solid. Benedict Cumberbatch, I'm sorry, I can't say enough, took everyone to school. Hell, he took them to church. This guy literally sat at an all-you-can-eat buffet and of scenes and just pigged out. Because the guy just chewed up scenery left and right. I mean, he makes everybody look like an incompetent actor in this movie. Keep it real with me like I keep it real with you. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and stay tuned for all the new content.